Hello, and welcome to the Basic Testing in Qualtrics tutorial video. I am Paul Byrne, Research Data Services Librarian at Syracuse University Libraries. What we will cover today is using Qualtrics to administer tests. We will cover how to automatically score the test, how to score essay questions, which must be done manually, and how to send the results to your respondents. Qualtrics can be used to administer and grade tests very easily. However, for regular classroom applications, Blackboard is probably your better choice, as it has better testing, different types of questions, and other things to make testing easier. Thing is, Blackboard is only good if all of your students or respondents are in your class and you have a Blackboard site set up for it. If your students or respondents are not in your class or even affiliated with your school, then you will need to use Qualtrics. It is important to plan your tests before you even get into Qualtrics. It will be best to develop your test in a word processor like Microsoft Word before doing it in Qualtrics. That's because a word processor has better editing features, better spell check and grammar check, and you can more easily rearrange the questions and answers. You can always copy and paste everything into Qualtrics when you're done. You'll also need to decide on how you want the test scored. Each question can be worth a different number of points, and you can also use decimal values as well as negative values. You can create and score categories of questions, say for different sections of a test. Thing is, only certain types of questions in Qualtrics can be scored automatically. Other types of questions can be used, but you must score them manually. Some of the types of questions that can be scored automatically are multiple choice, using either radio buttons or checkboxes, as well as text entry boxes for single-line short answer questions, say a short phrase, somebody's name, the name of a place, etc. You can also have essay questions in your Qualtrics test, but that must be scored manually, and we will go over how to do that. Other types of questions are allowed and are scored automatically, but they are not accessible and therefore discouraged from being used. These include matrix questions, sliders, side-by-side, and Qualtrics Net Promoter Scores. Basic steps in creating a test in Qualtrics. First, create all your questions. You can put all the questions in one big block or use different sections in different blocks. Create the scoring scheme in Scoring. Then create an embedded data field for the total score. Then, in Workflows, create a task to send an email with the results to the student. And finally, distributing the test. You need to make sure of when your test is available to start and end when you do this. Let's take a look. And here we are in Qualtrics. I have already created a very simple test just to save a little bit of time. As you can see, we have some multiple choice questions, some fill in the blank open-ended questions, and then down below I've put in what we'll call an essay question. We'll be talking about this a little bit later. You can mix, you don't have to keep all the multiple choice and all the open-ended questions together in separate blocks. You can mix and match among the various blocks, or just put them all in one big block if you want. The scoring won't be any different as you go along. So, one thing that we want to start, I'd like to start out with, is we'll come over here to survey options. This is where you'll get the scoring, but I also want to point out that there are some options here. Allow respondents to finish later. That means letting them come back after some time. You might want to turn that off. How incomplete responses should be dealt with. And very importantly, survey availability. When your respondents or students can start the test, and when they will be timed out from it as well. You want to pay attention to this. To do the scoring, you can come over here to scoring. And you can see it automatically populates with all of your questions. And to do simple scoring, you just go right ahead. And so, who was the first president of the United States? You can click on the answer, and it will automatically score it as 1. As I mentioned, you can also do decimal values, and you can also do negative values. So if somebody says Ronald Reagan was the first president of the United States, they'll be deducted a point rather than just getting no points or a full point for the correct one. I'm going to take these out for just now. And you see they go back to gray. And the same with the other ones. You can click auto, but what that does is it just numbers them 1 through 3. It's not really what you want in a test necessarily. How much is 2 plus 2? Now, when you have a text response like this, it is not case sensitive, but the spelling must be exact. Now, in a question like this, you really kind of have 2 options for an answer. One, of course, is to just say 4. If you want to add another option, so that the person can type the word out. And both of these can be worth 1 point. That's okay. So if they type in the number 4, they'll get marked correct. Or if they type in the word 4, they will be marked correct. And they will get 1 point either way. What is the first day of the week? We can say Sunday. As I said, it is not case sensitive, so just putting in Sunday like that is okay. And the number of points. We're going to, since the essay question gets scored manually, you want to just leave it blank for now, as it is. Don't do anything with it in the scoring. Now you can have what we've done. If you click on score, if you click here and go to scoring options, it's the same thing. So you go to manage categories. Now what we did is by default it's called score, and that's the score for the entire test. You might want to have separate scores for each section of the test. In Qualtrics, they call them categories. So you can click on New Category, give it a name. I'm going to name it the same as that block or section. And we'll say open end. We'll do another one for, actually no. As you can see, score has 5 items, but the other 2 have none. We'll show that in a second. And here it says show scoring summary for category score at the end of the survey or after each question. You don't want it after each question. What this does, and we'll see in a moment, is this will give a report after the test of all the respondents' answers and show which ones were the correct answers and which ones were the wrong answers, plus a grade for the test. Thing about this scoring summary is once they navigate away from that page, it disappears. We're going to see this in a minute. Scoring options. Treat empty statistics for scoring categories as 0. And what this means is that any of the possible answers that you did not give a specific score for will be scored as 0. So we'll click Save here. Now we can come back up here, click on multiple choice, and now we can score those. I'll go to open end and do the same thing. Now if we go back to manage categories, you can see that we have 2 and 3 items. Now, in the open end, there really is just 2 questions, but there are 3 items that can be scored because of question 3 here. How much is 2 plus 2? So we'll click Save, and we'll go back to the survey builder. What we need to do now is to go into the survey flow and create an embedded data element for the total score of the survey. So go into embedded data, and we can call this total score. You can call it really just about anything you like, and then set a value now. And insert piped text. And we'll go down to scoring. And we'll take score because that is the total score already. And then score. Now, this might seem redundant, but this is necessary so that further on we'll see when you want to send an email with the person's score, their grade on the test, you'll need this because for some reason you can't access the embedded, the piped information from score in the email. I don't know why. Click Apply. And we'll go back to the survey builder. Now what we want to do is create a workflow to send an email with the results to the respondent. Click on Create a Workflow. We're going to do one that is started by an event, which is namely the respondent clicking the last submit button. And we'll say survey response when a response is received or updated. What do you want to look for? We want newly created responses. And we'll click on the plus sign and it'll say either task or conditions, and we'll say task. Send an email. And here's where we start filling things out. I'm going to go to panel and recipient email. If you're using a contact list, it's a lot easier if you can use a contact list, because then you can just use the contact email. If you're not using a contact list, then you'll need to specifically ask them in the test at the very beginning what their email is, and then use the response to that question here instead. We're going to continue with recipient email. For some reason it comes up and says invalid email address. Don't worry about it. This will be fine. You can change all of these. And give it a title. When this gets sent, you'll want to most likely have all of them sent after a certain amount of time to give all of your respondents, all of your students, time to finish the test. So however long that might be, whether it's hours or days, weeks, as it has here, you'll want to, so that one student doesn't get his or her results before another student is finished. For right now, we're going to say immediately, so you can see what happens here. And you can start with the message and say, "Dear you scored a," and we'll click on pipe text again. Now, if you see in this list here, there isn't anything from scoring. You don't get that option for some reason. So that's why we needed to create the embedded data field in the survey flow for total score. And I clicked on the wrong one. There we go. Now you can, as it says, include response report. What this will do is it will show their answers to all the questions, what they answered, whether it's right or wrong. You can show the full question text, and you don't need the recipient data. That's a lot of the contact list panel information, things they already know. So we'll click Save. And then you always want to make sure that you come up here and show that the workflow is on. That's tripped me up a couple of times. So we'll go back to the survey. Now that's back to workflows. We'll go back to the survey itself. And at this point, you're ready to distribute your test. So we'll click on distributions. And then compose email. And we can select contacts. I would suggest creating a contact list with just yourself in it for testing purposes. Makes life easier. When to send it, of course, that's similar to when the test is going to be available. You can, of course, send this ahead of time, and then in the survey options, say, when it's available. We're going to say send now. And you can call this. You also want to pay attention to down here the link expiration, because that's going to coincide with the survey or test availability that you did in the survey options. And we will click send now. And here's what that distribution email looks like. Dear Paul, please take the test. And we will click on that link. And we'll say, do right and wrong one so we can see what it looks like. I'm going to skip this for the moment. Now this is the response report that was part of the options in the scoring, in the manage categories. And this is pretty nice. It shows what the respondent answered and what the correct answer was, plus their score on the whole test. The thing is, once you close this tab, navigate away from here, this disappears. So unless you're a respondent, you can put a special message in this part saying, be sure to print this out if you want keep a record of your results. The other thing about this, of course, is that since it shows right and wrong answers, one respondent can save this and then email it to other respondents before the test has closed out. So there can be a little bit of nefarious things going on with this, because there's no way to delay this report until after the test has been closed out. But it's nice. You might, your particular application, this might be perfectly fine. Now here's the email with the results that we created through the workflow. It says, Dear Paul, you scored a 2. And then it shows, the response summary shows the answers that I put in. As you can see, it doesn't show what the correct answers are. And then there's scoring summary for each of the categories that we put in. If you didn't do categories and just had everything go into the main score, that's all that would be shown here. And then the embedded data total score of 2. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do in terms of customizing this part of the report. Now, one thing that you can do is, since it doesn't show whether this was a right or wrong answer, is you could also upload a answer key to Qualtrics and include that, a link to that in the email, or just a link to it on a web page someplace. And so that is how you do basic testing without an essay question, where Qualtrics can automatically score all of the questions. In Qualtrics, you can have essay questions as opposed to just the short answer, somebody's name or a place questions. These questions, however, must be scored manually. And this can be accomplished by using the Retake Survey link in the Data Analysis section of Qualtrics. You will also need to add some display logic, so the question to enter the score is displayed only to the instructor. And you'll also need to add to the embedded data to add the score for the automatically scored items with the score for the essay. Let's take a look. Now, sometimes you want to have an essay question, or even just a few sentences, maybe not even a full essay. And those need to be scored manually. The scoring will not work for this. So the essay question is just a regular text entry with a essay text box type. But then you also need a question for whoever is grading the essay to actually enter the essay score. As you can see here, we have a display logic put on this. This is so that the respondent or the student, whoever is taking the test, doesn't see this question. And we'll go in here just to see. You can see that it's embedded data and then Q underscore URL contains Q underscore R underscore DEL equals 1. And we'll see where these come from and what this means in a couple of minutes as we get into where we are actually going to grade the survey, or the essay question rather. So we'll close that up. One thing that you'll probably want to do is go back into the scoring and then to the manage categories. You want to turn off the scoring summary because that will show as soon as the person finishes the test, but of course it won't yet include the score for the essay. So we'll click Save. We'll go back to the survey builder. And if you noticed on the previous screen, it said that we needed to publish because we're making changes. So we're going to publish just to make sure that what we've done so far gets saved. Now, another thing that we need to do is change the workflow a little bit. So we can work from the workflow that we created a moment ago. Come over here and edit. And it's still basically the same. But now we want to put a condition in. So we'll click on condition and select question. An essay score. And isn't empty. Basically, that there is a score in there. Then we can click Done Editing. And so now this email with the score won't be sent to the respondent until the essay has been graded. Click back. We'll go back to the survey. And one other thing we need to do is go into survey flow. And we need to edit, we need to add the score for the essay to the total score. That's already been done. So we have the embedded data field for the total score that we set earlier, and that's just pulling from the score in the scoring scheme. But we need to add the score for the essay question as well. So we'll just click on this, and we're going to put a space in there and a plus sign, and then insert piped text, survey question, now to essay score and essay score. And we need to do a little bit more editing on this. Need to put an E there. Take out that curly brace. Take out that $sign and that curly brace. So that what we have in here is $E, a curly brace, the pipe text, space, plus sign, space, the next for the text entry for the essay score, and then a curly brace again. You can look in our workshop videos for how to really do this, and I suggest copying pasting these into a Word or text editor. It makes it a lot easier than copying pasting it back in. We'll click apply. And we can go back to the survey. We need to click Publish to save all our changes to the survey flow and the workflow and everything else we've done. Now the distribution is exactly the same as before. That doesn't really change. So we'll compose the email. To our contacts, send now. And we'll do send now. And here's our test. And here's our essay. And click Submit. As you see, as a test taker, I didn't see that question for grading the essay. So we can close this up. And then we'll want to go to Data and Analysis. Now this is the response from the first time I did it without doing the essay. It can take a moment or two for responses to get processed and show up in the window here. And here you can see the response. There is no essay score. But we'll come over here and just take a quick look. And here's all the responses and of course the essay and all the other information that is usually included with this. And we'll just close this up. Now to score the essay, what you need to do is come over here and then do retake response. Do not use retake as new response, because what will happen is it will create a new record in the data set. And then you'll have duplicates, more or less duplicates. So definitely do retake response. And here's the URL to this. And if you look here at the very end, you can see the Q_R_del equals 1. And that's what we used in the display logic, so that the question to score the essay, to grade the essay, is only shown to the person who has access to this, namely the person grading it. So we can just click on this URL here. And we see all the responses. I just want to click through. And now you can see the essay score. And give it a 6. And we've finished the test and it's been scored. We can close this. And we'll close this as well. And we'll do a quick reload. And you can see it can take a moment. And so the data has updated, and we can see we now have an essay score along with the score from the closed-ended and open-ended items, and then the total score, which was created or calculated in the embedded data field in the survey flow. Additionally, in the email that is sent to the test taker, the student, the respondent, you can see that the total score at the bottom here is 10, and the essay score is 6, and all of the other scoring that went on. And so that is how you can do basic testing in Qualtrics. So in conclusion, Qualtrics provides a fairly simple method of administering tests online. Most questions can be scored automatically. And essay questions must be scored manually, but are easy to do. Thank you. We hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please watch the next tutorial, Repeat Testing in Qualtrics. Please also watch our other Qualtrics and Research Methods tutorials at the links provided.